Hello, guys. My name is Anna, and you know that I vlog daily from my country, Ukraine, since the start of the brutal Russian invasion. And this challenging times, this extraordinary times also bring extraordinary people in life of Ukraine that help us remain strong, resilient, and make our victory more real. And I'm also happy and blessed to have this channel because it introduces me to such people. And I'm really glad to meet today Noel, who for me is a great rescuer of so many beautiful, fluffy Ukrainian creatures. And definitely there are lots of good initiatives that Noel is responsible for and does them so easily if you observe it from outside, but it takes a lot of effort and emotions.
Look at you. Who's the best dog? Get the cage? Yeah, we should. Alright, should we get this cage up?
Yeah. This guy's been abandoned.
You wanna come with us?
The idea is
Oh, I'm sorry.
to evacuate as many and find homes.
Noel, would you introduce your vocation, because there is no other word, and a bit about your Nordog initiative?
Yes, I'd love to. And hey, Anna, great to see you again. I think the last time we saw each other was at the conference in Lviv. That was a very nice time.
And thank you so much to Jonathan from Silicon Curtain for connecting us all. You see, community grows. Maybe
the
sometimes.
first of many.
Yeah.
Let's hope so. In terms of my background, I've been, I have a long background, I guess. My old life is in private banking, so I'm Swiss by nationality. I may not sound it, but that's the first trick. I worked in private banking for a number of years, like 7, 8 years between Switzerland and the Bahamas. At some point, I had enough of that and decided to get into computers and open source and all that kind of good stuff. And I started selling templates, website templates online. And that's how I also met my two business partners who I've now had since 2010, 2011. We have a digital company where we provide open source web services, if you will. And we also power a lot of large websites across the world, be it from the PlayStation blog or the Standard Chartered sites all around the world, or some of the Disney sites, and so on and so forth. And yeah, we've been doing that for a number of years. We have roughly 70 employees globally, distributed, remote. We've been doing remote since the beginning of time, and that led me on a couple of different interesting paths because myself, I've been nomadic since 2013 for a majority of time. And on one of these excursions, trips, adventures, I had the chance of meeting Fred, who is the founder of Nordog. And he is the one, who, saw what was going on in Ukraine on TV and just decided to jump in a car, come down here, and knowing nobody, it was like, I'm going to, try to fix this problem. And then at some point called me and said, hey, do you want to do this too? So I'm on a mini sabbatical, thanks to my company, allowing me to be able to work and spend more time here. So I already spent a good deal of time last year, but also, just trying to help as much as I can during these difficult times.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much to your company and all the people around you. This is a question that I often start such interviews with. Because it may help others who doubt that, for example, war in Ukraine can grow into something more serious if we don't stop Russia in time. So my very first question, did you feel it coming? Maybe you were not observing this part of the world, but anyway, did you believe the war of such size and such brutality and violence was possible? Did you see it coming?
No. Short answer, no. I can, in terms of, I'm sure you have follow-up questions, but I can already easily answer that. I think it caught me very much off guard. And even when it was warming up in February and, things were becoming more real, I still, thought it was masquerading or whatever. And then it just happened. And it stunned the world, and the somewhat sad part is that it's still raging on, and there's a lot of other ugliness also in the world, and a lot of
Yeah.
other problems, and we still haven't resolved this one. But I'm not a political person, but I am a hopeful person that believes in humanity and the things we built, that in aggregate and in total, that we ultimately progress as humanity and society. If we don't have hope, like what else is left? So,
Exactly.
this is why I smile.
Yeah, from one point of view, it's so good that good people and good initiatives, they multiply, but bad that aggression and violence also multiplies, and lots of people observe what will prevail. You rescue dogs and other animals. We will talk about that more in detail later. But how did you come up with this idea? I know that you were invited to North Dog Initiative, but were dogs, puppies present in your life before war? Or is it something that came up with the start of this war in Ukraine? Like, are dogs important in your life before?
Yeah, great question. And answer is resounding yes. I've had dogs in my life almost my entire life. My parents have been great dog lovers in that regard, and it's always been a part of the family. So I've always had those kind of bonds and friendships growing up. And then I've been involved with various animal shelters and humane societies around the world for the last 19 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, 19 years. Or 18, sorry. And yeah, like that, it's always been like small things here and there, but the kind of overarching narrative or story arc, which works from a timing perspective, is that when I was 26, 27, I said by the time I'm 30, I'm self-employed, and by the time I'm 40, I'm going to use that knowledge that I've gained in the corporate sector and the private sector to then move closer to NGOs and charities from 40 on. And now I'm 42, and I feel like I'm, really hitting my stride in terms of being able to contribute here. Still keep a foot in my day-to-day business, which is rooted in open source, and which is, to me, humanitarian technology, and more than ever necessary technology for the advancement of society as a whole, or continuation. And yeah, I think it's just a lot of story arcs and narratives coming together in a very timely fashion. Even if this is a horrible situation, it's something that's, I feel like I've been working towards, and now these new challenges and difficult things I'm doing here, where I'm getting things wrong, and maybe facing rejection and other issues, is part of this learning curve again of getting into something new.
What was your first rescue trip to Ukraine? Was it also your first visit to our country, like ever?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perhaps, yeah.
I
How
mean,
would you
100%, 100%. I was supposed to have hip surgery in March last year because I have like genetically bad hips or whatever, and I get to the doctor getting ready to have the surgery and everything, do the X-ray, and then he looks at the X-ray and he's like, you know what, your muscles are actually quite good. Do physio, and I'm like, I'm like mentally like ready and everything. I'm like, my heart rate's great. I'm ready to do this. No problem whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, like the plans change. So I've already been working with Fred at that point, with some of the digital things around Nordog. And then I called him up and I'm like, hey, are you going to Ukraine? He said, yes. I'm like, where are you? He's like, I'm on my way down. Okay, meet you in Warsaw. And crossed the border from Poland. And I thought, it'd be another like couple hours drive. I hadn't even looked at the map. I'm like, I'm here for the, for just to chip in and do my part. But, like a couple days later, we're in Kharkiv, so we finally made it.
Yeah, Ukraine is big,
Yeah, it's really big. It's fascinatingly large, and I think there's a lot of great statistics out there. Things such as a third of the country could be potentially mined to this day, and that equates to the size of the United Kingdom. Mind blowing.
Yeah, that is like both a blessing, this location of Ukraine and the size of the country, but at the same time, it creates a lot of problems. So what was there a difference between what you expected to see and what you saw in terms of like war, people, and of course animals?
I don't have. I usually don't go in with too much judgment, and I feel like I'm quite well
Yeah.
traveled. Being nomadic, I grew up in Africa, and Asia is a place I love to spend time in, and so I've just been around the world quite a bit. And I think the most beautiful part of the whole journey so far has always just been the people I meet along the way, their openness, their resilience. It's incredibly motivating to to be able to face a new day and to push on and say like we're doing this, and we're standing up to bullies, either by rebuilding, by defending the line, whatever it may be. It's very inspiring to be in. I didn't expect to have that kind of emotion, and as soon as I left the country last year, I felt almost like a sense of guilt in terms of like I need to come back and spend more time. So yeah, it's been a emotional, like a new types of emotion. I think.
Yeah, it's very emotional, and I remember watching a morning after one missile attack on Kiev, and that was a video of a lady whose flat was totally ruined. But then rescue guys brought two of her parrots, big parrots, and she was so happy that they survived, and she started hugging them and trying to hide the cage
Yeah.
with parrots, in a coat, and was saying there is also a cat, and it was so I don't know, heartbreaking, but at the same
Yes.
time, important. And when you see that, like, she does not have her flat anymore, all the house is a mess, but she's happy at this moment because she's reconnected and her animals like survived. So it's all about emotions too. Could you share some of the emotional moments of this rescue operations? Maybe you had like a favorite story to share, or something you did not believe will work out, or a super cute puppy you'd like to introduce, or
Oh,
anything.
yeah, no, I mean, there's lots of stories, obviously, but I think the ones that hit home, and there's a number of them. Like, I'd say, to really pinpoint one story, I think late summer last year, uh, Pavel is the one who runs all our field operations. So we have Pavel and Sveta. Sveta runs the shelter operations, and Pavel runs everything outside of it. And they're both champions, Ukrainian champions. One, Sveta, with showroom dogs, show dogs, sorry, and Pavel with hunting with dogs. So they're extremely experienced in that regard. But we were out in Volchansk. Volchansk is in the northeast of Ukraine, and it's 5 kilometers from the border. It's one of the first towns or settlements to be attacked during that invasion. I think they didn't even have a chance to react because they were really literally the first ones. And it's one of the places that's still victim of completely unnecessary attacks on civilians, with massive amounts of shelling at very random times that comes in waves. But we were out there for a few evacuations late last summer. And what often happens is that dogs are left behind for whatever reason. I'm not going to judge. And then the neighbors that remain behind end up taking care of the animal that's left in the yard. And oftentimes that may be, older folks, which are just like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay put right where I am. And we had an older man, help us because he was taking care of this almost like a white shepherd. You'll see we'll play the video at the same time, and he, as he was handing the dog off, like obviously the dog was so attached to him, and he just started just crying, like it, and trying to hold back tears. And I can't speak too much from a cultural perspective, but I don't feel like I see many men shed tears here very naturally. But whenever we're, taking this kind of man's best friend quite literally away, and it's one of these few connections, just like the parrots you mentioned before, and we take them away. It's a very hard feeling. The person selfishly would love to have the animal, but knows that the best thing for the animal is to come with us and find a new home in Western Ukraine. And that's just very tough to watch and see. And the story I just described, we see it repeatedly. I just had this last week in Kupiansk. Kupiansk is quite a hot area these days, so a lot of people are evacuating. And again, soldier has to rotate because their unit's moving somewhere else, and they're like, I know this is the right thing, so they call us, and we then find a new home for the dog. There's some happy endings there too, where we take the dog back to our shelter, sterilize, give the vaccinations, chip, but then actually deliver the dog to the partner or the wife, so that at the end of the war, hopefully, the two can be reunited. And it's just extremely emotional moments like that, where people are trying to make decisions for what's best for the animal, but it ultimately devastates them personally.
Yeah, this is at the same time a very strong bond and connection in such circumstances, but at the same time a correct choice. I briefly want to share a story I've read on Facebook, but
Please.
It's true, because these are people whom I know personally. They were helping to evacuate one lady from temporarily occupied Kherson region in Oleshki, when there was after a dam they were flooded. And that lady who evacuated to my city, she shared the story that she was very much afraid of the occupants. She was alone with the son. She never went out on the streets. She was afraid they will separate her with children and so on. And only time when she went out was when her cat that was walking around, they caught the cat, this Russian men, invaders, and took that cat to their house because they had mice or something. And she said, I had to get out. I knew they went shopping or something, and I got into their house and took the cat back. Because it was her cat, and everyone was surprised, saying, you were afraid to go out, you were afraid to go to the shop, but you were not afraid to go directly to the occupants' headquarters. And she said, but the cat was there.
It's such stories that are truly incredible, because I think countries like Ukraine have sometimes they're perceived as having bad animal laws, and there's some truth to that in terms of a lack of animal laws, and the ratings aren't that great. But at the end of the day, when you're here with the people that are still here, and what's left is just life, essentially, because everything else that's tangible has kind of been destroyed or whatever. You see amazing feats of love, I guess, between people, their animals, their friends, and everything. And I think we try to keep that intact. I struggled with that at the beginning when I first came here. I thought, I'm helping animals, should I be helping humans? And it turns out, we're extremely effective at helping animals. And I think, there's a lot of these kind of indirect parts of life and culture, like the arts, or music, or other pieces of culture, or other life forms, or whatever, that come together and complete life in such a way that it must be preserved for the long term.
Yeah, and this is also helping humans when helping their animals. And, correct observation, there are lots of things to work on in legislation, but I'd say it's always like that in Ukraine. We have a much better civil society and people, and our politics and law lagging behind, but we are working on that.
We're also working. We're hoping to change that too, or have an impact,
And we are always willing to change and to learn, and hopefully we'll have more space and peace to do that. Could you describe for our viewers a typical, of course it's not typical, it's always extraordinary, but a typical rescue operation? Do people come in contact with you, or you know where to travel? How is all happening?
So I'm going to screen share a bit
Cool.
because I think that'll be fun for the viewers to
Definitely.
understand a bit of how we and what we do. So this is a map of Ukraine, as we can see. If we zoom out a bit, there's a nice thick line around it. The red areas are the still occupied Russian areas, and the deoccupied areas I don't have marked, but we can see that. Yeah, I mean, it would be close to the red zones around, mostly around here and some around here. And what typically happens is, so we are in Kharkiv, which is here, and we have our shelter, and we have two primary operations on a monthly basis, if you will, or ongoing basis. One is food production and distribution. So we produce anywhere from 20,000 to 40,000 kilos of dog and cat food in Kharkiv. So we pay the factory, we contract with the factory, and we manufacture that at a low cost.
Okay.
And then we distribute that to various areas in the east, all the way around, all the way down to Kherson. So really driving quite the distances in that regard. At the same time, we will undergo a number of evacuations where people call us. It's either military, civilians, they somehow have heard of us or put in contact with us and say, hey, there's 3 dogs in a yard here. There's nobody to take care of them. They haven't eaten in a week. Can you please evacuate them? And then we basically try to fit them in. We drive out there. We evacuate the animals. Sometimes they are very cooperative and funny, and other times they're absolutely crazy. Everything is okay, like it's
Life.
None of this is normal. Yeah, we've evacuated animals from outside between Chasiv Yar and Bakhmut, where like a 1.5-year-old dog will only know shelling and war. So when they come to our shelter, they just sleep for days. I mean, I don't want to laugh, but it's kind of true, in terms of the stark
after
reality.
the dog is saved, we can actually laugh because it's already in their good environment. So that's a good story.
So all these dogs come back to our shelter, and that's in Kharkiv, like I mentioned. And then, and sorry, this map is still work in progress, so there's still a couple of mistakes here or there. Still putting this together. And then if I turn on this layer, I think, yes, then you can see all our distributions of these dogs as a heat map of sorts across Ukraine. So this is where we've delivered.
I'm trying to see my city. I live in Lutsk, which is Volhynia region.
Here we go. Yes, we have delivered to Lutsk. Yes. So we're a bit like Amazon Prime. We have dogs. You call up and you say, hey, we'd love to have the dog, because we have a Telegram group where people can see the dogs. We will
share the links
share everything.
Below the video in comments for people who want to join.
There'll be a lot of links. Don't worry, everyone. There's a lot to click on. Yes, we have delivered to Lutsk, but there's a big kind of like vetting we do. So a bit of an interview process to make sure that the animal is going in a good environment, not that they're going from one bad environment to another, because that would really be the kind of nightmare scenario for us. So coming back to this is, zooming out, you can really see we're really active in deoccupied areas and the front lines, and we feel that we are highly effective in these areas compared to, maybe other more international, larger organizations which move a bit slower or, have a larger kind of macro goal. And that's not saying that one is better than the other. We are just very effective at this part of what needs to be done.
And these are really hot and dangerous zones. I haven't heard about any other initiatives working that close to this front lines, because like dealing with animals who are already on the safe territory, that's one thing, but saving them and even traveling to these areas may be very dangerous. It is actually. So thank you for doing all that. And we can only imagine what these dogs go through, even in terms of what they hear, what they see, and like explosions, light, and all that stress.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, like we're generally not closer than 3-4 kilometers from
Which is very close.
I, yes, I understand that, but at the same time, I think we have the Ukrainian armed forces to thank in terms of their resiliency and their ability to push back and fight, and I think that gives us quite a lot of confidence in terms of being able to go in for half an hour, an hour. Obviously, we have a vest, our helmet, and stuff like that to protect vitals in case of artillery and then shrapnel as a result. And that's really the only times we, gear up. But I think it's reassuring somehow that all these different pieces, be it the military, be it the volunteers, the NGOs, the civilians, or whatever, are all working together in some way, and it kind of flows to try and survive, rebuild, repel, push back. It's all very inspiring.
I'd say this is one of the main reasons why we all believe
Yes.
we will win this war. That's the thing that gives us confidence. Thank you for being a part of that, and it's actually unbelievable to think that. Like, I'm always very grateful to people who have a choice, live their normal lives, enjoy, I don't know, travels, things,
Yeah.
important things, but avoid this danger, and you make this conscious choice. And you've said, like, when you leave the country, you feel you want to come back, you feel this connection. So this is extremely important. This is what actually must save humanity, such people and such decisions. I watched a couple of your interviews, also read a couple of them, and I do
Okay.
like the fact that you do not simply put dogs and puppies in the shelters, which is of course already very good because they're saved from dangerous zones, but you also look for good families for them. But there was also an idea you talked about, and I'd like to know more about it: training of puppies, because all in Ukraine love patron dog, and
Yes.
there are lots of dogs that perform various important services that are actually a part of Ukrainian armed forces. I have recently seen corgi dog in a uniform, and I'm a huge fan of corgis, and I did
That's way
not
too
know
cute.
they are working
Yeah.
and doing a more important job than I am. So, how's that initiative, and also a great possibility to use dogs as a part of rehabilitation and socializing for traumatized people, and there are many of them, starting from kids and finishing with soldiers. Could you tell more about this?
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up. I think a lot of this also goes back to, the team we have in terms of Sveta and Pavel, or, just such experienced dog handlers. And that makes a lot of this a lot more accessible in terms of the ideation and where we can go with the charity. So I'd say from a foundational point of view, we've come to a place where we've done extremely well. I think being in business language, vertically integrated. So we don't outsource anything or whatever. We make our own food. We do our own rescues. We deliver
That
our
is
dogs.
cool.
We have our shelter. And we believe in all this, and we optimize these things. So a dog will stay in our shelter for an average of, I think, 2.5 weeks before rolling out to a new family. And that's really what we, strive for, because we don't want to be a long-term shelter, because that really defeats the purpose. And if we're a long-term shelter, all of a sudden we don't have space anymore for other evacuations. So, last week at some point we were full, which means we have to wait till we're Amazon priming some dogs away to Western Ukraine so that we can go evacuate some other ones. And to give you a kind of perspective there, we have 21 shelter kennels, which are kind of outdoor kennels with a fence, wooden box, and all that, all really nice. Since then, last year, we have built 11 quarantine kennels and then 8 warm kennels in a new building. So we acquired a new piece of land adjacent to our existing property. You can get a surprisingly good price on land these days, especially if you have a howling husky in your shelter all day and all night. So we acquired the next door property for a good price, and we're able to start building on that. We are now completing that with the warm shelters and the operation room, grooming room, and all these kind of things, so that again we're able to continue this this kind of 360 approach to animal welfare. And this brings us to a nice position, I'd say, where we almost have a bit of flexibility in terms of where we go next. And there's lots of different options. I think a big one is spay and neuter. So being able to sterilize animals and not bring them back, but sterilize them in the towns. So building a mobile clinic, which you can imagine is quite a kind of technical and expensive thing. Finding vets that want to actually go to Volchansk and Kupiansk and these different places, and then running these kind of sterilization 2-3 day events or whatever in these towns to then try and stop the repopulation, because all these things fall under animal population control, because you don't want these kind of populations to spiral out of control, right? And it's extremely important, because the humane thing to do, sure, you can try contraception, which is non-surgical, but that's not exactly
if you control
feasible.
the dog, yeah.
Yeah, that's great if you have the dog, but like we're talking about, the strays that are running around. Then you have spay and neuter, which is this program where you try to do a lot of dogs at once, so that there's a much less chance in that geography to repopulate. And then the sort of the things that we don't agree with, but that still occur, is then euthanasia, poisoning, and then the worst is just shooting because it's gone too far. And a lot of these things, the last two certainly happen, and that is not
that's not
a good way to manage population. I think the understanding in the animal kind of community is that the animal must go through a good life or a full life, as opposed to that being ended too early. So let's say euthanizing a puppy is not okay. Euthanizing a 14-year-old because they have some, lots of issues or whatever. There's probably, something to be said there. But so the mobile clinic is one big thing. The second thing is demining. So assisting in a demining effort. That is going to be a huge piece of work. It is one of the top initiatives of the country's recovery plan. So it's really one of those top level items to demine the country. I forget what the cost is going to be. Something like I'm not sure about the cost, but the time will take something like 15 years, even if everything goes to plan. And you can use lots of different devices and things like that, but then there's hard places to get to, so animals can come in quite useful. And then the third point that you already brought up is support animals. So really using animals, and this has been proven clinically that time spent with an animal, even for like a support animal, even for a week, can reduce like depression symptoms or PTSD symptoms by quite a large percentage in the following days and weeks. So I think there's a lot of promise in terms of using these animals to the benefit of recovery for the country. But everything's timing, right? Like at what stage do we do what things? Is the country facing a larger potential of rabies, because a lot of the controls for like farm animals and strays are not in place right now because of the war. So do we focus on that and then demining and then support animals? I'm not sure. I think we have a bit of a luxury in terms of we've worked to the point where we have that flexibility to now think more openly in terms of how do we expand.
This is really cool because this is such a conscious approach, like understanding of the problem and in which direction you want to grow, you can grow, and this like full sustainability that you achieve. This is really cool. But I do know that our community on the channel is very responsive and they will definitely want to help somehow. But what is the most efficient, the best way for them to get involved?
I'm happy to share lots of details from my side. Before we get into that, maybe you can tell me a bit of because I've seen a couple things on a couple videos and then Discord also about some raccoon
Oh,
mascots.
that is
So
going to be
maybe
one of my favorite questions.
okay,
I so much love my subscribers, and I never call them subscribers. They are my friends, my community.
yes,
And
absolutely,
one day I have shared with them really sad news about a raccoon that was stolen from Kherson Zoo when Russian occupants were leaving Kherson. They took this raccoon from a private zoo or something. And it was an example of this totally unnecessary violence and like brutality against an animal when they like shoot civilians, destroy schools, ruin zoos. What's the sense, even if you are at war? No
none.
rules, no respect, no human values. And that was for me an illustration. And I've shared that, and people were extremely worried about the raccoon. And somehow I see that in Ukraine, they do not live in wild nature,
Yeah,
but in North America, many people have contact with them, and they felt like, oh my god, this little brave raccoon, it has to survive. And they started being more positive to these trash pandas, as some of them call,
I
because
call
they
I call them
see.
trash pandas too. To be fair,
So
they're cute, but they're trash pandas.
yeah, there was so many positive like comments and some memes saying that
Yep.
perhaps this raccoon will return back, taking Russian soldiers as hostages and so on. And what is even better, there is information that this raccoon escaped from captivity. And honestly, this Russian telegrams channels that were manipulating that they have a
Yep.
fighter raccoon, it escaped, and we believe it returned back home with a number of like prisoners of war on the side of invader. So for us, raccoon has become a symbol of resilience, and we were following the updates on this very warrior, and it's a part of like our community.
So I have
Have
good
you
news.
encountered any raccoons in your rescue operations?
I have, and I've done a bit of homework, and because I had some memories from last summer, and you won't believe it, but it was actually from the Kherson region. So if I screen share my screen back to this just for a moment, and we zoom out of here.
Uh-huh.
Last year, and we do this quite often actually, especially in the Kherson region, because there's a couple of charities we like, or shelters, that we also provide our dog food to, because they run they run their shelter in such a way that is thinking in the long term. So again, trying to think of positive outcomes. And one of those shelters is called Four Paws here in Kherson.
Nice.
And they have, and I remembered from my time then, that they have some furry creatures. Now, I asked Yana, who's been running this shelter amazingly for 15 years, if memory serves correctly. to maybe send me some content, and I'd love to share that with you now, because these are furry creatures that are in Kherson, so it very
This
funnily lines up with your story. So I think
exact.
there's something to be had here, and the audio should also play.
Oh my god. Just like me.
Is the sound coming through?
А ты будешь
Yeah.
так?
That's number 2.
Да, вот как. А ты будешь?
And here we have
Держи.
number 3.
Oh my god.
I feel like this is a great opportunity for the Anna from Ukraine
Зачем
community
тратиться лапами,
to come
если можно
together
сразу
and potentially,
все в рот?
longer
Да?
term adopt and take care of these guys, as long as they're, in Yana's care, which I fully
ты
trust and
стеснялся?
vouch for.
Oh my god, I will be honored. I feel like I need to hug all of them, and Yana too.
Well, I think
for
they might
sure.
have rabies or something, So
I don't.
sure.
Oh, they are super cute, and that would be fantastic. Thank you so much for finding
You're
me
more than
my
welcome.
Kherson
And
raccoon family.
as soon as this video goes live, and I think I have the date, I will drop some more photos and everything inside of the Discord channel. So if you're watching this video right now, please get on Discord to see some, behind the scenes raccoon footage.
Yeah, meet my family.
I think this is it, So maybe we can all end up there for a little day trip to check out these 3 cuties.
That's actually what I'm planning. I would definitely like to see, and thank you so much. This is an honor, and this is really like both interesting, important, cute, a combination of everything I would like to have.
I'll let you take it from here, but I will say that this is Yana's Instagram and everything, and I'm sure you'll share everything. Maybe you'll get in touch. I'm not sure, but she's excited to hear from your community.
I will get in touch with my raccoon family. Guys, the raccoons are taken. I'm sorry, but there are other animals you can adopt.
Well, she's done an amazing job, and I think it's somehow the stars have aligned in that regard. And it's a beautiful thing. So I'm very happy that you're happy.
Oh, I'm so happy that you connected us, and I'm sure there will be more photos, stories, and live meetings with these raccoons, because they have also become symbols of Ukrainian resilience. And Yana and her shelter. And by the way, I did like the environment in which they live. They seem to be happy. And this happiness of animals is also an achievement in such difficult times, and it is contagious, because if you have fun with an animal, you start feeling better. Thank you so much. This is really exciting. There are so many good things coming from this interview, but this one is very material.
I have another small little extra for it, and it's really for anybody who ends up donating either to Yana or our charity Nordog. I would love to share my little package of mobile wallpapers for your phone, and these are very high resolution.
And they are
your iPhone will look
blue
amazing.
And yellow.
Yes, all of them. They are extremely cute. So I think there's nothing but good to be had here.
Need such wallpaper.
Well, you know how to get it now.
Yeah. So guys, do check these raccoons. They bring you strength, resilience, and only good messages on your phones.
Yes. So that is those are my surprises.
These are super cute. This is the best New Year present, because to start your new year with a new fluffy family is definitely really cool. But raccoons
I'm glad you like it.
Are very personal. Very personal. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And then there's like emotional question, like working with so many puppies and other animals. Has any of them like caught your heart with someone it was difficult to separate, or someone, or you try to pick to keep it neutral, professional, business?
I'm pretty good about it. Of course, we had when we evacuated the one near Bakhmut, Gerda. I spent some time with her after because she was such a we had such good chemistry and stuff. And we'll play the video here too. But it's a great question. But it's a couple of years ago. As I became nomadic, as I started traveling, as I started doing these things, I realized that I have a lot to give at a macro level as opposed to micro. And I'd love nothing more than to have a couple dogs. And before it would have been like, I don't know, whatever dogs, and now I'm like, give me the fluffy alibis, because they're like, I mean, they're massive, but they're just like little teddy bears, at the end of the day. So they're very, very cute. But actually, all the dogs we rescue are just such well-natured, especially once Sveta and Pavel, are able to align their behavior, because sometimes they come out of whatever situation quite erratic, paranoid, tired, fatigued, stressed, and we bring them to a good place before we send them out. So, coming back to your question, I'd love to at some point. Maybe if once the victory has come, and we move on a bit, then I'd love to be able to do that for myself. But in the meantime, I think very much focused on how can I take my corporate experience, my technology experience, and then the people I meet here, and then combine these things together to try and have a bit more of an exponential effect, as opposed to just a linear effect. So just trying to find those larger opportunities to unlock, and I think that's the right time for me in terms of my experiences, my energy, my passion, in terms of just executing those things.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Every period in our life is determined for something. And now saving so many dogs and connecting them with their new families or their old families is super important. And thank you so much for doing that and doing it so elegantly and once again optimistically, even though you have to do it in helmets and vests and bulletproof vests and in really hot zones. And once again, I do think that after this video, there will be lots of people from all over the world who will tell you have to make this Amazon delivery to different corners.
Well, that's a challenge, but I'm hoping we can get there at some point. I obviously we're about to release the new website, but I can really share in terms of. This will be our nice little donate page and all that kind of stuff. And you'll obviously be able to help us out because we do have quite large running costs. We do drive 20 to 40,000 kilometers per month. 20,000 plus kilometers per month with our various vans and everything. And then we produce a lot of food. We do all the rescues, and obviously we want to expand with the mobile clinic and everything else. But you'll be able to see the map on here and everything we do. But I'm hoping also that we able to get some information on there about international adoptions. Depending on the country, it's not the easiest thing, but I'd love to get to a point where we can start unlocking international adoptions more easily, because some of it's just logistical. How do you drive from Kharkiv to Lviv with a dog in the back without taking an overnight stop? And then, you have to feed the animal, you have to do various things, you have to walk the animals, right? Like we're humane in terms of how we execute things. So even just the long distance from front line to Polish border is a challenge in itself, right?
And the border too,
Right papers and everything, things can be okay. That's okay. And, I think that's part of this process. I don't think we want to just unlock this without having full confidence in our ability to execute it well, because everything we've done so far, we've done in a very planned and methodical way, because it's we're operating on limited resources. That's it. You have the constraints of war. You have the constraints of whatever donations you're receiving. You have the constraints of time, and then you have to make tough decisions in terms of where do you go evacuate, where do you go deliver, all these kind of things. So our ability to deliver inside of Ukraine, especially still between Kharkiv and Kyiv, is a nice benefit that we have. But if we really want to try and solve animal welfare at a larger scale and grow and everything, obviously we have to unlock the international adoptions. And if you want to be a part of the waiting line, then obviously follow us, follow me,
Yes.
whatever, like I'm happy to interact with everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Once again, I'm reminding that below this video, in the description and in comments, we will leave all the links that will connect you to Noel, all of the communities that are important, and you can definitely follow, you can definitely help. And maybe we will do it the other way. We will win quickly, and people will be able to come and adopt and then decide how to travel with these dogs. Combined traveling to victorious
That would be a beautiful
Ukraine.
thing.
Huh?
If they meet us in Kiev for something like that and are willing to take the dog back, I think that's a beautiful journey in terms of entering the country at a challenging point where you can bring supplies with, help out, you can meet some of your friends that may actually need some help, and then also take a little family member on the way back out.
Yeah, a Ukrainian family member. Yeah, you're right, because now there are lots of really good, brave people who travel to Ukraine for various volunteering reasons, and that might be also a way to multiply the good. Just like as we're finishing our conversation, still, I would like, well, you've started with your banking experience, and I had this question like, when will Russian frozen assets? But let's skip it because it's always toxic. Maybe you could tell more about your digital initiatives, because open source sites and all of that is so important. We see what's happening around the world and how access to information is vital for shaping your opinion, for seeing at least what is right and what is wrong. So do tell a little bit of what you're doing apart from like this rescue war initiative.
Absolutely. So open source, and I work in open source technology, which really means that the technology we use is free to distribute and it's free for you to own. You may not own the rights to the name or anything like that, but you're free to own the code. You have a license to that when you use open source. So that is why something like WordPress has become so popular and has celebrated its 20-year anniversary this year. And we still contribute, we still build on top of it, even though other web platforms come and go. So all the ones which were there 20 years ago, which were commercial, are dead. And we can see similar things. I think even let's say in your industry now, one of the most popular open source technologies is OBS. I don't know if you use OBS for your whole kind of camera setup and everything, but that's something that has withstood the test of time. And there's just a lot of software like that helps things tick along. And it's important not only to have open source software, but also open standards, right? So even just like text or Markdown or these different kind of file formats are universally accepted by different kinds of software and are open in terms of their approach. And that keeps things going, because if technology and file formats and the way we communicate and all that is owned by companies, then you're also held hostage by that. So for the normal consumer, it doesn't make a big difference in a day-to-day, especially if you back up your things both on Google and Dropbox and maybe your computer or something like that. But, there's always a possibility that if you store your things in one place and they decide to terminate your account for whatever reason, you have no recourse. So I think that's why it's becoming ever so important, really, to have this technology, especially when we talk about the recovery of Ukraine and the information around that. I think a good example of another piece of open source technology is the mapping technology behind Deep State Live, the map that we all follow in terms of understanding the front line. That is open source mapping technology created by a Ukrainian developer who allows everybody else to use that mapping technology for free, and it allows projects online to not be bound to certain technologies. And I think it's just very important that we are able to maintain that, so that future generations at least have a foundational set of technology that they can use for free without having the constraints of corporate terms of service, of whatever they feel is what you're allowed to publish and not allowed to publish.
Exactly. And that's actually the moment where we enter my apart from YouTube area, because I work with an NGO that works on the digitization of cultural heritage assets. And it's also extremely important to use open source data and to make all of these assets available freely and combinable and all of that. And we're trying to introduce that to Ukrainian grassroots and micro organizations that sometimes enthusiastically digitize, but making that not in the efficient or open way. And it's important to educate them and to give them the
open
tools.
source is not always efficient, let's say, because you have new softwares that are always attractive and stuff. But if you want digital Ukrainian heritage and culture and everything to be eternalized for the next 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 years,
that's a good plan.
Proprietary platform. It has to be in the open because then it's able to be distributed, shared, and stored in multiple places as backups and contingencies.
Yeah, fair principle. Yeah, it has to be everywhere, like we see in the way we treat people, in the way we treat information, in the way we treat animals. Noel, thank you so much for this conversation, but thank you times more for everything that you do. I hope that many more people will learn about your initiative and most importantly support it in the way that is best for you and best for them. A last question or anything, what would you wish to Ukrainians? It can be something serious, it can be something fun, but a message for us to remain.
For Ukrainians?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Okay. I mean,
it's a trick.
I don't want to cause trouble. I'll cause trouble. I'm trying to learn a new language, and in a place where the current popular language is not where the country's language is going. So I would love for Ukraine to be able to unify under a single language. I think it will happen at some point, but it will certainly make my life easier learning language. But till then, I'll listen to Ukrainian music, so that works out, and that's a good way to learn.
That's a good wish, and I totally support it. It's important. Thank you so much for everything that you do, for your wishes, and most importantly, that you feel so connected. Because it was for me a very emotional moment when you said you miss the country, you feel you need to come back, and seeing beautiful sides of our life, seeing ugly sides of our life, you see real Ukraine. And I think it's important that we are open and that there are people from far away who want to come and to risk a lot, but at the same time to save more. So thank you so much, Noel.
No, you're more than welcome. I mean, 90% of people say, yes, hey, it's so cool you're here. And then you have the not even 10%, like 5% that are like, why are you here?
I don't think they really well, there is always 5-10% in any
on Twitter it's at least 30%, so don't worry, these are good numbers.
I have trolls on the channel and I like saying that I keep them as pets, and they get very angry about I will not block you, I'll keep you as a pet. But
we'll feed them to the raccoons.
Yeah, now we have raccoons, and raccoons will do the job. Thank you so much for giving me this new fluffy family, and we will keep you updated on how our relations develop with this fluffy family, and we do need more photos.
I will send everything. Yes.
Thank you so much, and I hope we will hear more good updates from you later. And good luck in everything that you start. It's really inspiring, and it helps Ukrainians also feel more confident and more resilient. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.